Hi there, my name is Emily and I'm a museum assistant here at the Marco Island Historical Museum. Welcome to On Location with Collier County Museums. Today we'll be exploring the newest addition to our grounds on Marco Island, the Pioneer Garden. This garden was planted in December 2019 in conjunction with the Calusa Garden Club, who helped research, plant, and donate all the materials and vegetation that you'll see today. The main purpose of the Pioneer Garden was to plant a diverse cultivation of plants that represented those that the pioneers would have used starting on Marco Island in the 1870s. This means we can go ahead and explore the agricultural history of Marco Island, the daily life of the pioneers, and the connection of the community between the historical relevance and now. The 19th century is full of risks, adventure, and explorers looking for a place to call home, including Marco Island, which had its own slice of pioneer life. A couple of notable figures include Tommy Barfield, the Olds family, and Captain Bill Collier. But upon arrival, these explorers had more than their fair share of troubles. They had to combat mosquitoes, swamplands, and figure out which crops worked floriding weather. A couple of crops mentioned in our museum exhibit, but not in our garden, include mangoes, peppers, and giant cabbages. The pioneers not only farmed to feed themselves and their families, but also to make a profit. This means that tropical fruits like mangoes, oranges, and other citrus were a hit in northern markets. This also means pineapples. And for a brief period of time, pineapple plantations flourished on Marco Island. They were fantastic when train cars could carry the fruit from the south to the north, meaning less fruit rot. However, pineapple plantations on Marco Island didn't last because of hurricanes, droughts, and freezes that knocked the industry out. Because of that history of pineapple plantations on Marco Island, the Calusa Garden Club and their research decided to plant pineapples in our garden today. So these are dwarf pineapples. The ones that the pioneers planted were ginormous. So these are dwarf cultivars meant to represent the pineapple plantations, but not take over the entire garden. When these do ripen and grow into fruit, you won't be able to eat them because they're small, bitter, and almost inedible, but I might try them anyway. This is one of our dwarf banana trees, one of two in our garden, planted in their dwarf forms for spatial purposes. Banana trees flourished in Southwest Florida beginning in the 1870s, along with pineapples and other fruits for northern markets. Now, banana trees aren't actually trees, bananas are berries. And you can tell this because the main stalk grows and then produces fruit and then dies. And those stalks down here are the new sprouts that will continue in that cycle of life. So when this big one dies, these two on the sides will flourish, and then so on and so forth. And this is the centerpiece of our garden, our dwarf key lime tree. The key lime has been a staple ingredient in many historical desserts and dishes, including the key lime pie, which is our state pie. So when you pick a key lime, you want to make sure it's mostly yellow, unlike this one, to make sure it's sweet and ripe. So the pioneers planted more than just fruits. They planted veggies, and to show a diverse cultivation of plants in our garden, we planted a couple for ourselves. So right here we've got our tomatoes, which with all the sunlight and lack of rain we've had lately are growing. These were a well-growing crop in tropical climates like today. And then over here we've got our sweet potatoes. Now these were planted in above ground pots because, as you can tell, they take over everything around them. Now, sweet potatoes are a staple piece of any pioneer diet, and you can actually eat these leaves and they taste like sweet potatoes. Now, the most interesting but unassuming plant that I want to mention in this garden right now is the Coontie plant, otherwise known as the Florida arrowroot. Now, this doesn't look like much, and you can find it across the state and mostly parking lots and landscaping purposes because it is slow growing, but this plant is actually poisonous in this form as it is right now. However, if you take out the roots, mash, wash, drain, and repeat the process, you can make a starch that is edible, not poisonous, and you can turn it into flour. So the pioneers would create Coontie mills where they would create this flour substitute in their baking and their bread. And it was actually discovered by the Native Americans long before any American pioneer arrived, and was developed into the Seminole culture as a delicious dish called sofki. So you can eat this, but not like this. Don't try it home. Last but not least, we've got our snake plants that go all around the edges of the garden. Now these aren't edible, but they're just as useful as everything else that you can see because these plants have specific fibers in them that you can tear apart and twist into rope, twine, and other tool-like materials. The Calusa Indians and the American pioneers did use these to create all sorts of things, including, like I said, rope to tie around the garden to keep wildlife out. Life as a pioneer wasn't easy. You didn't have electricity, had to grow your own food, and even had to make your own rope. But not just half a century later, there were cars, roads, and even schools on Marco Island. which just goes to show the timeline of our island and our history and to put everything in a little bit more perspective. A special thanks to the Coosa Garden Club for the help researching, donating, and planting our pioneer garden, and for making our island just a little bit more beautiful. And thank you all for watching our On Location with Collier County Museums. Stay tuned for more videos and comment below if you have any questions or thoughts about our garden. Thank you so much and have a great day.